Wildfire and forest dance together in an ancient cycle: growth, destruction, and finally, rebirth.
So fire is regenerative in that you've got all of this dead brush that's on the forest floor, and by burning that away, that allows new growth to occur more readily. That's the way it has been for millennia.
But in the western U.S., wildfires have literally exploded in size.
Because it's so hot and so dry, we're starting to see more area burned. And so one study even quantified this.
Scientists say in the western U.S., the area burned by wildfire nearly doubled between 1984 and 2015, and they blame human-caused climate change. Now, in many burn areas, trees aren't bouncing back like they used to. Research scientist Kimberly Davis studies what happens after the fire.
And what we saw was that there's these really sharp thresholds for ponderosa pine and Douglas fir, which are two really widespread species, where after these sites crossed these climate thresholds, we saw a big decrease in the probability of regeneration. And so basically, we're moving into climate space that's really not suitable for regeneration in our hotter, drier, lower elevation forests.
Davis's team found that very few ponderosa pine and Douglas fir seedlings survive soil surface temperatures above 122 degrees, an increasingly common summer occurrence in the West. In the Rocky Mountains alone, more than 10 million acres of ponderosa pine and Douglas fir forests could be lost by 2050. It's just too hot and dry for their fragile seedlings to survive into adulthood. What does life after trees look like? Often, low-growing shrubby plants move in, but not always.
Well, it really depends on where you are. So in parts of the Southwest, we see other species like junipers or oaks that come in, or New Mexico locust is another kind of shrubby species that's really becoming pretty common down there. In other areas, there might be more dominance of grasses. Forests are really important economically, especially in the western U.S. There's a lot of timber forests for that, but also increasingly the recreation industry is really important, and people like to go hiking and hunting and fishing when there's forests around. The first overarching solution is to try to limit climate change, right? If we limit our carbon emissions and we see a lesser degree of warming, that means that there will be less area burning and also more regeneration. Climate change is the driver of these changes.
Forest managers are scrambling to adapt.
If we can do things like prescribed fire or fuel reduction treatments, that will help, but also we can only treat kind of a small percent of the landscape.
And that may not be enough to save vast areas of our western forests in a hotter, drier climate.